"Him," said the landlord in an answering whisper, cocking an eye without turning his head. "I don't rightly know. He is one of the wandering folk, rangers we call them. He seldom talks, naught but what he can tell a rare tale when he has the mind. He disappears for a month or a year, and then he pops up again. He was in and out pretty often last spring, but I haven't seen him about lately. What his right name is I've never heard, but he's known round here as Strider." Greetings and well met, my friends. Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today we shall talk about some of the people who are the namesake of this channel, the Dúnedain, or Men of the West, in Sindarin. These particular men are the Rangers of Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south during the Third Age. I'm glad to finally be making this video, as the Rangers are some of my favorite folk in the Legendarium, despite the fact that we do not know much about them or their members. Thank you all who voted for this and the other topics on last week's poll. I shall see all of those videos made at some point. Now, as these things tend to happen from time to time, I happen to coincide making this video with GeekZone making a video about the same topic, so I will link his video about the Rangers in a comment below, for we are good friends, as are all who love Tolkien's works. Check that out and send him some love from the Men of the West. Also, please check out some of the related articles and videos that I have put in the description and cards as well, as they helped in the making of this video. One last thing, I will also put links to the two fan films, Born of Hope and The Hunt for Gollum, in the description. If you haven't seen these fan films yet, please check them out, for they tell the tales of Arathorn, Aragorn's father, and Aragorn's hunt for Gollum. Now, let's begin our tale, my friends. We will start by first examining the Rangers of Arnor and their history, before looking at the Rangers of Gondor, and then seeing how the two similar forces from the different Dúnedain kingdoms came together to fight for their new king in the War of the Ring. Concerning the kingdom of Arnor, it was fractured into three separate kingdoms, Rhudaur, Cardolan, and Arthedain, after the death of King Eärendil in 861 of the Third Age, and his three sons divided Arnor in such a way. Eventually, the Angmar War happened from 1409 to 1975, with some continued fighting through 1977. But ultimately, the fall of the Northern Kingdom came after the Witch King took Fornost, the capital of Arthedain, and the king of Arthedain, Arvedui, perished in Forukel when a ship of the elves that he boarded was destroyed by a northern storm. After the death of Arvedui and the loss of Fornost, the North Kingdom was truly ended. At least, ended considering what it once was. The Free Peoples would defeat the Witch King in 1975, but it would be too late to restore Arnor. The Northmen were scattered, and the son of Arvedui, Aranarth, would not become king. Rather, he became the first chieftain of the Dúnedain. The remaining members of the North Kingdom became the Rangers of the North, and they took to wandering the wilderness of Eriador and protecting the land from the evils that came there. From Aranarth to Aragorn II, the chieftains of the Dúnedain commanded the Rangers, for they were of the line of Isildur through Arvedui, and they were also the heirs of Anarion and the throne of Gondor through Arvedui's wife Firiel, after the deaths of the southern kings. The chieftains were great men, and for over 1,000 years from 1975 to 3019 of the Third Age, the Rangers and their chieftains operated in such a way. The chieftains were honorable and kingly men. They all held the prefix Ara, signifying noble or kingly, and they lived longer lives than most mortal men, for they had the blood of Númenor in their veins. The most important relics of the Rangers, the Shards of Narsil, the second Elendilmir, the Scepter of Anúminos, and the Ring of Barahir, which was eventually bartered back from the men of Forukel by the Rangers, as Arvedui had given the Losoth this ring, were all kept by Elrond in Rivendell. As for the other Rangers themselves, they wandered and made safe the northern lands, even if others such as the men of Bree did not appreciate them, or were even off-put by such men and their rugged and grim appearances. Others, such as the hobbits of the Shire, knew little of their existence. These men typically wore grey or dark green clothing, and they wore cloak clasps shaped like a six-pointed star. Now, these men certainly did a lot, or were at least active in their personal duties, even if we do not know much about their specific and secretive doings. Perhaps it seems that there was mostly peace in Eriador only through their actions and valor in the wild, unrecorded in the annals of the history of Middle-earth. It reminds me actually of a quote that Aragorn says to Éowyn, quote, "Then there will be need of valor without renown, for none shall remember the deeds that are done in the last defense of your homes. Yet the deeds will not be less valiant because they are unpraised." End quote. But as for the deeds that we do know concerning the Rangers of the North, these are they. Any invasions of orcs or wolves, such as the goblins who entered the Shire during the Battle of the Greenfields in 2747, or the wolves who came to the Shire during the Fell Winter in 2911, were most certainly harried by the Rangers in Eriador, and they were not allowed to walk unhindered. But as the years went on and we come closer to the end of the Third Age, tragedies struck the Dúnedain of the North. Arador was killed by hill trolls in the Coldfells of the Etenmoors, north of Rivendell in 2930, and his son Arathorn II was slain only 3 years later by orcs, in 2933. Arathorn's son, the final chieftain of the Dúnedain, Aragorn II, was taken to Rivendell by Gilrain, the mother of Aragorn, and the boy, nicknamed Estelle, meaning hope in Sindarin, was fostered by Lord Elrond. I tell his tale in full elsewhere, in my Aragorn Epic Character History video, so please check that out if you're interested. But for our purposes here, Aragorn would grow up in Rivendell, and he would be given the Ring of Barahir and the Shards of Narsil by Elrond. But he would have to earn the Scepter of Annúminas, as well as the Hand of Arwen, Elrond's daughter, if he would wed her. He could only earn these if he became the king of Arnor and Gondor both. The second Elendilmir would eventually be worn by Aragorn during the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, but I'm unsure if it was given to him at this time by Elrond, or if it was carried by Halbarad when the Rangers of the Grey Company went south before the battle. Anyway, Aragorn would become the man only he himself could be, and he went on many adventures, some as the Rhongil, who aided the Free Peoples in Rohan and Gondor against Sauron and his allies, and he, along with his friend Gandalf, sought the utter downfall of Sauron. Aragorn would eventually become known as the Ranger Strider by the men of Bree, and he kept a close eye on the doings of the Shire and especially Frodo Baggins by the time of the beginning of the War of the Ring. Aragorn would capture Gollum in 3017 and bring him to the Elves of Mirkwood as well. Eventually, on September 22nd of 3018, the Ringwraiths overran the Rangers of Sarnford south of the Shire, as the Nazgul crossed into that land to hunt for Baggins and the Ring. The Rangers had indeed kept watch on the Shire, and that was why it had remained so safe, but with the coming of the War of the Ring, that protection would change. We'll get back to this after we discuss the Rangers of Gondor and their history, and begin to tie everything back into the War of the Ring. Looking now at Gondor and Ithilien, the Rangers of the South were formed at a much later date than the group of Rangers in the North, as the people of Gondor who had dwelt in Ithilien were eventually pushed out of that fair land by the Uruks of Mordor in 2901 of the Third Age. But during that same year, the secret refuge of Henneth Annwn, the Window on the West, was built, likely meaning that the Rangers were the people of that land who remained, or were their descendants, and they built such a place to use as their hideout. The purpose of these Rangers was to harass Sauron's forces when and where they entered Ithilien, for that was the pathway to the heart of Gondor, Minas Tirith. These Rangers dressed in green and brown, and in contrast of their northern cousins, they seemed more militant and unified, dominating one more localized region, rather than being wanderers. Concerning other differences, these men did not seem to retain the blood of Númenor that gave long life, for the blood of Gondor was much more mixed with the blood of the Middlemen than was the blood of the Dúnedain of the North. During and before the War of the Ring, Faramir was the captain of these men, and some other rangers under his command were Damrod, Mablung, and Anborn. Now let us discuss the Rangers of the North and South as they operated separately and together during the War of the Ring. After the Ringwraiths had entered the Shire, the Rangers and their chieftain Aragorn watched the east road for sign of Frodo and his departure from Buckland. But nothing was seen, for they had taken another road. Eventually Aragorn would encounter the hobbits and the prancing pony in Bree, and from then on the chieftain of the Dúnedain aided the hobbits in their adventure, going on to Rivendell and even beyond, for he served in the Fellowship of the Ring. The words of Galadriel to Aragorn as bestowed through Gandalf the White in the Fangorn Forest told of the riding of the Grey Company from the north, for indeed, the Dúnedain Rangers were gathered in haste, and they rode southwards to the aid of Aragorn, led by Halbarad, who bore a banner for Aragorn that was created by Arwen. The sons of Elrond, Elladan and Elruhir, joined their ranger friends on this journey also. I would guess that the Rangers of the North were never very numerous, but especially at the end of the Third Age, as no more than 30 rangers came south with the Grey Company. so I suspect there were few rangers left in the north overall as well. They caught up to Aragorn on March 6th of 3019 after the Battle of Helm's Deep, and the conversation with Saruman in a then-drowned Isengard. The sons of Elrond reminded Aragorn of the paths of the dead and the words of Malbeth the Seer, who foretold Aragorn's going into such a place. The Rangers would accompany Aragorn on this venture, and so forth. Halbarad would carry and let fly the standard of the king crafted by Arwen at the Stone of Arrak and beyond. Now on March 7th in Ithilien, Frodo and Sam witnessed a battle between the Rangers of that land and the Horadrim who were coming north in preparation to besiege Minas Tirith. Faramir and his Rangers captured the two hobbits and took them to Henneth Annwn. Damrod and Mablung served as Frodo and Sam's guard on the way to the refuge. Faramir would learn of the ring, and the Rangers eventually captured Gollum as well. Anborn, another Ranger, had first seen Gollum before returning to Henneth Annwn, but mistook him for a beast, and did not slay him, for Faramir commanded his men to not slay wild animals for no reason, alike to how Beren of old did not slay any beast not in the service of Morgoth in Dorthonion. But Anborn answered Faramir's question of who was in the forbidden pool near to the refuge, and said that it was not a bird for it had 4 limbs and dove manwise. Anborn offered to shoot this creature, but Faramir did not have him do such a thing. Rather, Gollum was captured, and Anborn guarded him. Eventually, the Rangers let Frodo, Sam, and Gollum go forth on their mission, into the Morgul Vale on March 8th, and Faramir demonstrated immense quality of his character in doing such a thing. The Rangers left Henneth Annwn the next day, and would eventually make their way back to Minas Tirith after ensuring a fleeting safety for Caer Andros and Osgiliath. Faramir would escape the Nazgul that pursued him by the aid of the White Wizard, but he would be sent back out to Osgiliath by his father Denethor. After Faramir was incapacitated by a poisoned dart on a second retreat to Minas Tirith, he would be out of combat for the rest of the war. His Rangers fought on, however, in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, but they would not be alone. From the Anduin River, black ships would come up, but they were led by the chieftain of the Dúnedain, and in that monumental battle, the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, the Rangers of the North and the Rangers of the South fought for the same cause against a common enemy. Halbarad, who yet bore the banner of his king on the field, was slain. After the battle was won, the Rangers of the North and South joined Aragorn and the rest of the host of the West in marching to the Black Gate. During this time, Mablung led the Rangers of Ithilien in Faramir's absence, and it was they who trapped ambushers on the way through Ithilien and foiled them from hindering the Free Peoples. In Minas Tirith, Faramir recovered after he had been healed by Aragorn. The Dúnedain of the North and South fought as brothers-at-arms during the Battle of the Black Gate, and they had victory, for Frodo and Sam accomplished their mission and the ring was no more. In part by the actions of the Rangers of the North such as Strider, and those others who guarded the Shire, and the Rangers of the South such as Faramir, who let Frodo, Sam, and Gollum go forth on their quest, even giving them advice as well, the ring was indeed brought to its end. Without the Rangers, such an accomplishment may not have been. Sauron was no more, but in the absence of the Rangers of the North, evil men had come up from the south into the lands of Bree and the Shire with little resistance, which was dealt with in the last years of the Third Age during the Battle of Bywater and the death of Sauron, as well as the reconstruction of such places. After the War of the Ring, the Rangers of the North would likely be the first men of the newly remade Kingdom of Arnor, while the Rangers of the South would become the White Company and the Guard of Faramir, who was named the Prince of Ithilien by King Aragorn Elisar. Aragorn reunited the kingdoms of the Dúnedain and ruled over both Arnor and Gondor with his wife Arwen. Through their efforts, the Rangers helped bring a new age to the world, one of a greater peace ruled by the second-born children of Ilúvatar. And so, we come to the end of our tale about the Dúnedain Rangers of Middle-earth. From the Dúnedain Rangers, we see what are some of the greatest virtues that people can have: loyalty, humility, honor, duty, love, and a hope for a better future. A person is indeed virtuous if they exude such traits in the pursuit of a better and more peaceful world. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, for I really enjoyed creating it. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this video with a friend. What are your thoughts, questions, additions, and corrections about the Dúnedain Rangers of Middle-earth? Let me know in the comments below. For me, these are some of my favorite people in Middle-earth, For they do what is right and protect the innocent, even if there are only a few people who know of it. I think there is so much everyone can learn from these people. Please check out our music channel, Facebook, Twitter, merch, and Patreon. Links for those are in the description below. Royan and I just discussed our favorite Middle-earth poems and a Lord of the Rings character tier list on the latest episode of our podcast over on Patreon, so I hope you all consider checking that out. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons, Adrian de la Tour, Chris Ortner, Peter Shepard, and Kyle Wetzel. Thank you guys so much, it means a lot to me. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today, and I'll see you all again next week with a video on the 9 Manish Rings of Power, the Rings of the Nazgul. Everyone, as always, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one, my great friends.